Welcome back to the program. Let's focus on the Horn of Africa, specifically Somalia. It exported over 5.3 million animals last year. That's a 6% increase over 2014's export volumes, and that was boosted by a rise in part in overseas demand. Now, the sector is the country's leading foreign exchange earner. It raked in nearly $400 million in revenues last year alone and $316 million the year before that. The bulk of the exports are goats and sheep. A range of export forecast interventions like widespread vaccination and health checkups have made livestock farmers in Somalia more competitive and better placed to take advantage of good prices and growing demand, especially in Gulf nations. Countries like Saudi Arabia and Egypt have increased demand for livestock, especially around Islamic holidays. Somalia has been in conflict for over 20 years. Peace is returning slowly to the Horn of African nation, but many a herder still fear that war or drought may weaken the sector and in turn lead to a fall in both prices and output. Let's head over live to Mogadishu, where Abdulaziz Billo is live with more data on this story. Abdulaziz, these record exports just keep coming in year after year. But tell us, given the drought that we have right now across Eastern and Southern Africa, have herd sizes and exports been affected?
Well, Rama, you're right. Livestock farming remains Somalia's #1 principal source of income or revenue, rather. But this industry has actually been reviving in the past couple of years because of the favorable climatic conditions here in Somalia, and also the rising number of countries that are interested in exports from Somalia. Now, most specifically Middle East countries actually are more interested in livestock from Somalia. And also one country to note is Egypt, that recently started importing animals from Somalia for the first time since the collapse of the central government here in 1991. But then again, a drought situation is being experienced here in not just South Central Somalia, but also in the relative stable regions of Somaliland and Puntland. This is to the north and to the northeast of Somalia. Now, the drought in that region has affected the livestock owners in that part of the country. The market has drastically reduced. The number of the camel owners are the only ones who benefit from the livestock trade, because the camel actually is more resilient compared to the cattle owners and also to the goat owners, because the camel has more resilient and more capability and can survive in the drought more rather than the goats and the sheep. So basically, this drought is threatening this industry that was beginning to show a realization, and the worst affected regions are Somaliland and Puntland, where most of the exports used to be exported from, because initially the animals are brought from South Central Somalia and then they're kept in Puntland and Somaliland before they're being exported. But alternatively, the Ministry of Livestock here is saying that it's going to come up with a measure to bring all the livestock through the port of Mogadishu instead of relying on Puntland and Somaliland, where drought has affected the animals there already.
Indeed. Something else, of course, related to the drought in Somalia at the moment. We're seeing a spike in child malnutrition based on the reports we're getting out of NGOs operating across Somalia. What sort of aid does the country need in order to cope with this crisis?
Well, Rama, you're right. The drought situation as experienced in Somalia in 2011 that resulted to famine actually had a serious effect on the public here. UN agencies said that almost 250,000 Somalis lost their lives in that occasion. So basically, the UN is saying that the drought warnings should be heeded, and that action should be taken early enough to avoid a repeat of the famine-like situation that was experienced here in Somalia. So basically, the issue of child malnutrition will definitely come to light in the next coming days. But one thing that the Somali government is trying to do here, and they're trying to say, is that the Puntland and Somaliland regions that are the worst affected, actually the government delivered $1 million to the Somaliland regional administration in northwestern Somalia to be able to fight the drought that has hit, especially the part called Awdal region. Now this is to the extreme north of, that's the area where most livestock have died, and most of the rural villages are located there. So the government gave that money and hoping that it's going to save, even though it's very little. But the UN agencies are saying that the farmers and the pastoralists need to be, the UN and the government need to work together to form a technical committee that will able to assist the farmers and the pastoral farmers to be able to come with a resilient program, so that once they come out of this drought crisis, they are able to continue to survive and not to rely more on aid agencies. So basically what the UN and the Somali government will be requesting for now is assistance in terms of how to be able to assist this vulnerable community so that they can be able to recover from this shock, Rama.
Indeed, we'll leave it there for the time being. Building resilience being the theme there in my conversation with Abdulaziz Bello in Mogadishu.